Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Bolt Action Reloading. In this week's episode, we're going to be doing a full review of the Saber M700 Precision Rifle chambered in .308 Winchester by Ashbury Precision Ordinance. Stick around. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here and you'd like to see how I and the rest of the community here make our group smaller, start now by subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell icon. That way you get notified when I post next week's video and you won't miss anything. In today's video, we're going to be covering as much detail about this rifle as possible. We're going to be talking about the distance to the lands measurements. We're going to give you a cruise down the barrel with my borescope. Tons of information. We're honestly going to unbox it, but we're going to wait till the end of the video for those of you guys who aren't interested in seeing what comes in the box. Let's get right into it. We're going to start at the back end of the rifle, go to the front end of the rifle, cover as much detail about it as possible, cover what you actually see here that's not included, what you need to get, what you don't, anything you want to know about this rifle. So let's get right into it. For those of you who are interested, I did actually pick this up from Cabela's. As of the making of this video, it's out of stock. I don't know if it's just because one of the sales just ended on it. It's still going to be available from Ashbury Precision Ordinance, but I did pick this up from Cabela's on a very good sale. That will play a little bit in today's review. The list price on Cabela's, though I have no idea if it actually ever was for sale for that, is $16.99. If when you guys pay that for it, I'm not going to tell you shouldn't have. It seems to be a great rifle so far. We've shot some factory ammo with it. We're going to go over those groups today. We're probably not going to include too much range footage. We are going to show you the groups and what we were able to achieve without any difficulty whatsoever right out of the box. In today's video, we're going to cover the good, the bad, everything about it. Starting off on kind of a sour note, this does come with a relatively cheap stock. This is a Magpul CTR stock. For those of you who might not be completely aware, this is not just a standard 6-position mil-spec stock. One of the interesting features that I wasn't aware of until I started actually playing with about the CTR stock is that it does have this lever down here. When you push it, it does lock in. I'm not going to say it gets rid of all the vibration, but it certainly gets rid of a lot of the wiggle in the rear stock that I was afraid of, which I thought was going to be a large factor in this needing to be replaced immediately. But with that addition, it gets rid of a lot of slop. This does come with a 3/4 inch cheek weld piece that clips right on. Magpul sells shorter ones, but I think honestly for this particular setup, the 3/4 inch one works perfect, and it is included with it. I'm going to show you a picture of the setup we take to the range. It doesn't work perfectly from our rear bag. However, we were able to get some very good results with it, even despite that fact. But if the stock is a downer to you, but you want to pick up the rifle anyway, it is changeable. This is a mil-spec 6-position AR carbine length shoulder stock buffer tube. Any mil-spec buffer tube style stock possibly could be replaced with that. If you subscribe here on the channel, one of the changes probably down the road is going to be that stock, though we might shoot it for a while in this configuration just to see how it goes. So far, again, really impressed, but we're going to get to that. Slowing down the rifle, you're going to see that we have the folding adapter. If you're familiar with the channel, you'll know that I have some Ruger Precision rifles. That has a folding stock. I will say, very impressed. This feels like a much sturdier folding stock. The button takes a lot of effort to push. You can fold it back. One of the interesting features, once it's actually folded, it locks in place so it's not folding. I really like that feature. Push the button on the top, bring it back, and fold it right back into place. Moving further down the rifle, we can see this actually comes with a standard Magpul MOE hand grip. One of the more interesting things about this rifle is it has this adapter. This adapter actually does two things that are really cool. The first thing is that this actually changes your grip angle. The standard is a 17.5 degree grip angle. If you wanted to change it out, there is a optional 11 and 27 degree. What comes with this is a 17.5 degree. But what's also very interesting about it, besides this angle adapter making it more convenient to shoot, there's literally an inch that you can move your grip back and forth to adjust the distance between your hand and the trigger, so you can actually get that custom feel that you want. So this is very adjustable. It's not just being able to change and swap a grip. You'll be able to do that as well, but you can also move your distance from there, and I can't wait to start adjusting it. All the testing I did for this was actually in its stock configuration, so I'm hoping it's only going to get better from here. The actual chassis portion of this is made for a 700 action. This is not a clone. I'm not sure if Cabela's actually carried the 6.5 Creedmoor version of this rifle. However, Ashbury Precision does have a 6.5 Creedmoor versus a 308. In this particular case, I already have two 6.5 Creedmoors, and I was interested in getting into 308 and seeing what it had to offer. So I was looking for a good platform. This certainly looked like it was going to fit the bill. Lord knows the 700 action has been around for quite a while, so I thought I would get to experience firsthand. So there's probably too many features that you guys don't want to listen to about the chassis. Like I said, this particular one is for a Model 700 short action. It also comes with a 5-round AICS magazine. I think it pretty much uses any detachable AICS pattern magazine. This is a 5-round. They have 10 rounds, which I've also used in this rifle. I believe that you can use any of the metal ones as well. However, the polymer ones are what's going to come with it. If you're a reloader, the polymer ones are going to basically limit your cartridge overall length to 2.880. That's going to come into play when we talk about distance to the lands and what you can expect out of the box on this rifle. Yes, we're going to cover that. They specifically state that no bedding compound is required to mount your rifle barrel action to obtain great accuracy. Advanced recoil reduction is engineered and designed in the construction. There's lots of modularity. I don't know if we're going to be able to cover it all. There's very quick detached sling mounts in the back of the chassis as well as the stock. What comes in the front is one sling stud, which is covered up by a Harris bipod. Obviously, the Harris bipod does not come with a rifle, but it makes it easier to show on video. Before we go any further, let's cover our barreled action. This is a Remington Model 700 SPS Tactical AAC SD barreled action. Our barreled action is also equipped with a Remington Factory X-Mark Pro trigger, which is externally adjustable. They claim that this is adjusted from the factory at 7.5 pounds. I have used my Lyman trigger pull gauge to measure it on several occasions. I will say that straight out of the box, it gave me multiple readings well over 4 pounds. Though I've been working in it a little bit, it is not down to 3.5 as they claim from the factory. It's not over 4, at least right now. I might follow up this later. However, the trigger is going to be one of those things that we may be targeting to change sometime in the future. Just to be honest, guys, it's not spectacular. This is by no means the worst trigger you're ever going to run into. Don't think it's that. It is externally adjustable. We might do some adjusting on it to see where we can get it. But straight out of the box, 3.5 pounds, at least mine is not. Yours might be different. A good thing for us, there's lots of aftermarket triggers for the 700 action, so that may be one of the upgrade paths we take in the future. But this is acceptable out of the box, and the results that we got, I'm not going to complain. I was able to control it. It did take a little bit of extra effort, but I am used to shooting on somewhere in the ballpark of a 2.5 pound trigger on some of my other rifles, and so it is a little bit different. It did take a little bit of work to get used to. As far as the barrel is concerned, for 308, this is a 20-inch barrel, 1 in 10 twist. If you were to be able to get the 6.5 Creedmoor, I believe that's a 22-inch 1 in 8. Both of them are going to end up with a 5/8/24 threaded muzzle with a protective cap that's installed, so you're going to be able to put a brake on this or a suppressor if you like. Stock configuration from Cabela's was without one. The barrel from Remington is actually a black phosphate finish. As far as the Saber MRCS AR modular rifle chassis, they're claiming the coating is a durable mil-spec 8625 black hard coat anodized finished, for those of you that wanted to know. Kind of contrary to the paperwork, American Precision Ordinance is claiming this is a 9.5 pound setup. However, on Cabela's website, they list this as an 8 pound rifle. I didn't throw it on the scale, but that's going to at least give you a ballpark idea of what the weight on this chassis rifle is going to be. Obviously, doesn't include the bipod, scope rings, or scope mount. We're going to get into those details in just a minute. The handguard attachment is M-LOK on your 3, 6, and 9 o'clock. It does have 4 M-LOK accessory attachment positions along the top as well. That's pretty much the way it came. It does have a sling stud mount. That's what we're mounted our bipod to at the time. That is removable if you so wish to take that off and put a M-LOK Picatinny rail accessory on there, though my rifle doesn't appear to have came with one, but that certainly wasn't going to turn me off from the rifle. We're going to get into more detail about the barreled action in just a minute. Let's talk about what we had to add to our rifle to actually get it out on the range and get some performance testing. First of all, let's start off. This did not come with a scope rail, and the scope rail we have on here, I'm not going to tell you it's necessarily the one to get. I'm using the EGW 40002 scope rail. I did have to remove the first couple tabs on here to get this to fit. I still think it's going to work just fine. If you're looking for the cleanest installation as possible, you might want to actually just pick up the one from American Precision Ordinance. I believe it's $65 versus like $35. And you're going to get the scope base that you're just going to be able to screw down and be ready to go. But cutting it off really wasn't a huge deal. It's going to depend slightly on the scope that you pick, what rings you're going to want. For this particular configuration, we're using the Diamondback Tacticals 6-24x50. The initial rings that I wanted to use for this application were going to be the 30mm medium rings from Seekins Precision. Unfortunately, when I mocked up our scope, these were actually too low and our scope was hitting our handguard. So the rings on here are high rings from SWFA. Like them, don't like them, they're what's on here for now. And when we get to the results, you'll see they work. But if you're going to go with a higher quality ring, if you can mock it up with some known stuff, I ended up having to going with some higher rings than I might have liked. But I think they've actually planned that, having the 3/4 inch cheek riser, because even with the high rings and the 3/4 inch cheek riser, I had a very good cheek weld and was able to get behind the scope with no problems. So really the only things we had to add was the scope, our rings, and the scope base, and we were ready to go to the range. Bipod or shooting accessories aside, I'll put a shot of the setup we went to the range with. This is not ideal. Like I said, our rear bag really didn't ride very well with this stock. So we're probably going to have to change that configuration somehow in the future to make getting groups on here a little bit easier. But I'm not complaining about the performance out of the box at all. So let's take a cruise down our barrel. I'll show you guys exactly the way it shipped from the factory. The point you're seeing the barrel right here, we had not shot any rounds down the barrel. This is exactly how it was received. Any copper you see in there was probably from any test firing that Remington might have done from the factory. This is the way that it came to me, and so if you're interested to know what condition it comes in, this is exactly the condition it was received prior to any firing by me whatsoever. It doesn't look too bad, and it shoots well, I promise. Which brings us right to our next point. Let's talk about our actual results. Our first test ammo today is going to be this American Whitetail by Hornady. One of the primary reasons why I picked this is it does use the 150 grain soft point, and I had some of those in stock. It'll give me a good idea what the distance from the lands were and how well it performs. For factory ammo and being the first to the rifle, not too bad. I did have a chronograph on this so we could actually take and see all of the velocities as we went along. I used 5 rounds simply just to get our rifle on target. I probably didn't need all 5, but I just wanted to make sure we were good and ready to go to start shooting our groups. We're going to get 3 5-shot groups out of this Hornady 150. Keep in mind, this is hunting ammo, so we're really not expecting anything spectacular, at least I wasn't. Hornady advertises the muzzle velocity to be 2820 feet per second. We are not going to hit that today. That is with a 24-inch barrel. Again, we only have a 20-inch barrel. I'll put an average of all velocities there on the screen if you'd like to see it. For the most part, if you look at the trend, it's going to appear that the velocities tend to increase slightly as we go along, which kind of makes sense that its barrel's going to speed up as it's getting broken in here. Our first 5-shot group out of the rifle here is only a 1.564 MOA group. However, if you take the one flyer out of that group, a 4-shot group of .506 is certainly not bad for starters, not at least in my book. The average velocity on those was 2586 with a standard deviation of 7.6, so quite a distance from the 2820 feet per second written on the box. Moving on down the line here, our second group had a slight velocity increase, 2588. However, the standard deviation was 17.0. One flyer again, our 4-shot group was .864 MOA. If you include the other one, it opens it up a full inch to 1.88 MOA. So our last group we're going to shoot with this, our velocity and standard deviation increase again. Our third group is a 1.07 MOA group, so just over MOA. 2,612 feet per second was the average velocity. Standard deviation was 31.4, which in my book, not very good for box ammunition. But we're going to change all that. We pretty much just wanted to get some rounds down the barrel and see what we could expect. So when actually testing some peak performance with some factory ammunition, I know in the circles that I've run in, when anybody talks about great factory 308 Winchester ammunition, gold medal is usually the topic of conversation. I'm sure there's other great combinations for 308, but gold medal seems to be the gold standard, and so that's what we picked today. Now, for 308, there's actually 2 different types of federal gold medal match, 168s and 175s. Did a little bit of research, and the best I can tell, at least if the arguments I read are true, the 175 grain Sierra Match Kings that these are loaded with tend to do a little bit better, or making their way through the transonic zone. If we're going to be shooting anything out to 1,000 with this rifle, we're going to be transonic pretty much with any projectile. Depending how far we take out this rifle, if we're going to be in transonic zone, I wanted to pick a projectile that was going to have a better likelihood right out of the gate, and so that's why I picked the 175s. I don't know how the 168s are going to perform because we didn't test them, but these 175 grain projectiles did pretty good. We actually only fired 15 of these rounds. I'm going to wait and do some reloading and follow up and shoot 5 more after we've actually got some more rounds through the barrel just to see what we can expect, but I'll tell you, I'm pretty impressed with the results so far. Federal is claiming a box velocity of 2,600 feet per second on these. The average velocity we're going to see pretty much across the board is right around 2,550. So our first group is going to have a lot of vertical stringing in that. So you're going to see a 1.259 MOA group. I'll put a picture of the setup here real quick so you guys can see the rear bag and kind of understand. The setup really isn't a free recoil. We really need a different stock to be able to ride that bag a little bit better. I was trying my best, and we're going to get better, trust me. Our setup is really going to cause more problems with elevation than horizontal. If you ignore the vertical distance, the horizontal is only 0.380 inches. So more than likely, a lot of that group was a shooter, but not for the next group. So moving right along, we tried a little bit harder on that, and 0.544 MOA was what we were able to achieve. Some reasonable ammunition and a half an MOA basically right out of the box. So I've got nothing to complain about this rifle whatsoever. Our first group averaged 2547 feet per second with a standard deviation of 7.4. Our half MOA group here, 2552, so a little bit faster. Standard deviation was 6.2. Our third group opens up a little bit more. It's 0.784 MOA, still 2550 feet per second, standard deviation of 7.3. So our 3 5-shot groups shot with our federal gold medal match. In my opinion, spectacular performance right out of the box. Good standard deviations that you could certainly shoot some distance with and have some reasonable performance. So I'm very excited. Strap a scope onto the rifle, get some good ammunition, and we're going to be able to hit targets out at distance basically with almost no effort at all. Keep in mind this configuration has absolutely no muzzle brake on it yet. Depends, I guess, how much 308 you want to shoot without a muzzle brake. The 6.5 Creedmoor version would likely have a lot less recoil, but 308 was what I was looking for. We're probably going to put a brake on here eventually, but I wanted to see performance out of the box. Can we hit targets? What kind of performance can we expect? And so far, I'm really impressed. Basically, no effort, half MOA. If we make some improvements on here, the stock, the trigger, probably going to be able to get some really great performance out of this rifle. So if you're interested to see what this gets to, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you keep updated on this project as we move along. We do an awful lot of reloading here on the channel. So for those of you that are here for that content and want to know what kind of throat that this is going to have on it right out of the factory, I'm going to put those numbers out on for you. So generally, the cartridge overall length maximum for book is going to be in the ballpark of 2.80 inches for 308. It's going to depend a little bit on what round. Our 150 grain soft points were only cartridge overall length to 2.739 inches. The federal gold medal match that we shot was basically exactly at 2.800 inches. However, with reloads, pretty much we're going to be limited by our magazine length, which in this case is going to be 2.88 inches. So 80 extra thousandths of room in our magazine. If we actually use the metal mags, we're probably going to be able to get a little bit more. But with our factory configuration, the 2.880 is going to be our maximum length. So when I put the chart on the screen here for all the different projectiles, just so you guys can get an idea, our Sierra 175s, which I certainly have no complaint about the performance on those whatsoever, at the 2.810 inch mark, and the cartridge overall length to the lands is right at 2.944 inches. Basically, 144 thousandths of jump is what those were jumping, and still got that kind of accuracy. The cartridge overall length to the lands on the 150s was 2.895 inches, just a little over 150 thousandths to the lands, very similar to the gold medal match. And for cheap hunting ammo, I don't know that we could expect a whole lot more than the performance that we got. That big of a jump and the accuracy we got, I don't think we can complain a whole lot. All those numbers are on there for the different projectiles if you're interested. We kind of range all the way from the 150 grain soft points all the way up to the 240 grain SMKs. The 240 grain SMKs require a 1-in-9 twist as well as the 230 grain A-tips, so probably not the right projectile for this rifle. Just in case you're interested, I included those for your information. If your favorite projectile is not on there, I'm sorry, but that is what we're dealing with today. Overall, I'm pretty impressed with the performance of the rifle right out of the box. I'm not sure how much better results than a half an MOA we're going to be able to get, but I'm certainly willing to try. So if you ask yourself, is this a good rifle for a reloader? Sure, why not? If we can get that kind of performance with a factory, I don't know why we couldn't get good performance out of our hand loads. And if you're not a reloader, I think that if you bought some 175 grain Sierra Match Kings and took it out to the range, I don't think you'd be disappointed either. At least I know I wasn't. If you guys have any questions or comments about this project, please put those in the comment section below. I'm going to cut in the footage of the unboxing here for those of you guys that are interested in it, and we'll close this out when we get back from that. I promise the unboxing is going to be quick, but for those of you who are interested, let's get to that. First of all, this is the box. Like I mentioned, we purchased it from Cabela's. Let's get it open and see what comes in the box. As you guys can see, it's a pretty interesting box. It has some pictures of the other rifles on here, but that's not what we're looking for. We must keep going. So here's our upside down rifle. Looks like we've got a box and a rifle, so I'm going to get it unpacked real quick. Ordinarily, I would just get rid of the box, but actually some interesting printing in there, talking about the different pieces, breakdown joints. and some of the different grip angles and other things that are available for it. So, but overall, it's pretty interesting. But let's get off the table and let's look at the rifle. I know everybody seems to flip their lid when I pull out the lead sled, but we're going to be using it for a gun vise today. We're certainly not going to be shooting it with it, but it holds it pretty nice, so we can go over some stuff in the video. We've obviously unboxed and unbagged our rifle. Let's go over what's in our box. The first thing we're going to pull out of our box is our bolt. Obviously, it is shipped outside of the rifle. Now that we have our bolt in, our rifle will look a little bit more complete. Other accessories in our box is the magazine that the rifle comes with, which is a 5-round PMag. It says PMag 5, 7.62 AC. The three other things that we're going to ship with is the owner's manual. This says instruction book for the Model 700. This is basically going to cover the barreled action. If you're not familiar with this, this is basically a 700 action in a chassis. The chassis is manufactured by Ashbury Precision Ordinance, and they provide the whole package. There is an additional manual for the Saber M700, which is pretty much going to cover this whole platform, at least that's what I'm assuming. And the only other thing is our security lock, which whether you do or don't need to use this is up to you, but that's what's in the box. So guys, if you purchase one of these, that's what you can expect. I hope overall you guys enjoyed today's video. I don't know if you're going to be able to find the sale price on this rifle. Again, even though the list on here was somewhere in the ballpark of $16.99, the actual sale price that I got this for was $6.99, and that's when I didn't wait any longer, picked it up, and honestly, I can't really be happier. The suggested retail price on the chassis alone is in the ballpark of $1,000. I figured getting a really good chassis setup and a barreled action for $700, I really couldn't go wrong. I've been looking to get a 308, and I've been looking at the 700 platform. I think picking this up was a no-brainer. I don't know if they're going to be any more available at that price or not. I don't think you can go wrong with this setup, at least if you're looking for a 308 version. Anyway, any comments or questions about the rifle, put those in the comment section below. If you like the content here on the channel, and especially if you're interested in this 308 project as we go forward, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get notified when I post next week's video. I hope to see you back next week, and until then, stay safe in small groups.